Hello, hello. It's
Right.
still morning here. Oh, look, you've got my cup almost matches that color. It's a slightly lighter color. And yours is a
Ooh.
little washed out by the camera.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Those are our brand colors, Jen. They're
I
brand colors.
know. We love the bluey green. So pretty. The ocean colors. Love them.
I know. I didn't have any caffeine yet this morning until I looked down and I'm like, wait, it's time for Beyond the Page. And I didn't have a hot beverage in my hand. I'm like, we have to fix this.
How can you function in the morning without caffeine? I
I
don't
don't
know.
know, right? Well, I mean, I usually do caffeine-free tea, so I'm
Yeah.
not like caffeine isn't like a part of my genetic daily, but I need warmth and it's
Yeah.
fall.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it was my new shirt that I got that's all happy faces. Can you see that?
Oh, that's so cute. Look at that. Fun.
I know, I like love it. I bought it a couple last week or the week before, and I thought I am wearing it today because we're gonna be happy about today.
Yes. Speaking about your book, we're wrapping up our session, our month-long
Yes.
emphasis on book speaking because it's so important, especially in the nonfiction world, but also in the fiction world. You do occasionally get asked to do readings or to do author events. And so it's really important to know how to handle those things. And we're going to kind of talk about the practical back end stuff of that today. But
Mhm.
particularly with nonfiction, a great way to grow your audience is to do
It
speaking.
is.
And as I always say, if you are speaking and don't have a book, you are leaving money on the table.
Yes. Well, before we get into like the nitty-gritty, before we pressed play or live or whatever, you and I were chatting, you told me about something really awesome that happened yesterday and
Yeah.
today around a speaking engagement that you
Yes.
did virtually. And I think it just underpins and underlines and reinforces, this discussion about why the speaking circuit can be really great for authors. Do you want to share a little high level?
It's kind of funny. So yesterday I did a webinar on systems for success for authors. And it's about all the things you need to do so that when you sit down to write, your writing time is very effective. And it talks about identity, mindset, your environment, a whole bunch of things. What advice should you take? What advice should you not take? All that kind of stuff. And so this morning, it's always fun when you find out people are talking behind your back in a good way.
In a good way, only good ways. We
So,
don't.
in a totally unrelated reader group on Facebook, one of my author friends tagged me, and I was the subject of the discussion. Someone had gone in there who had attended that webinar, which was for authors,
Yeah.
and went into a readers group and asked if anyone had read any of my books because she was
Mhm.
loving the first book of mine that she had read. Totally unrelated. It's just very interesting how it ends up being a small world. So I just sort of, if my friend hadn't tagged me, I'm a member of that group, but it's a huge group, so I hardly ever go in there. And if she hadn't tagged me, I wouldn't know they were talking about my stuff. But that was really sweet. So that
But I
was really
love
fun.
it. I
Yeah.
love it, and she was a part of your author or your workshop that you were a part of for authors. She was listening. She was also reading. She hadn't connected the 2. So sometimes what
Yeah.
happens is when we embrace the fact that, we have articulated a message in some way, fiction or nonfiction, that could impact others, when we speak about it, we can deepen a loyalty that people have with us. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one thing to read about it. It's another thing to hear us, and then they start to have our voice kind of coming through the pages. And
Yeah.
I think it just really deepens loyalty, and they get excited, and now they know you. You're not just some random person on the other side of a page somewhere in the universe. You are Jennifer Crosswhite, who wrote this book, and now she's heard you speak, and now her trust level with you is even deeper. And I think that that's just proof that that something magical happens on speaking stages of different
Mhm.
levels and different and don't think when we say stage we're talking about that the stage has to be to 10,000 people. It could be to
Right.
10, it could be to
Right.
2, it could be to hundreds, right, and anywhere in between. But leveraging speaking to not just sell books but deepen loyalty, engagement, and everything in between is a win-win, for authors. So yay, Jen, we love when people are talking about us behind our back in good ways.
Yes. It's always fun. It's always fun.
It is always
Yeah,
fun.
and it's funny because especially since those are very two different worlds, and so for someone to interact with me in both worlds and not be expecting that is really that was kind of fun. So it was
That is
exciting. It's always nice to have those. I don't do a lot of in-person stuff for the most part. Much of what you and I both do is a
Yeah.
lot of online because our audience is so big that having that um, interaction. Did you see me just glitch right there? My
Yeah.
poor computer. I
It was the
know
glitch.
it just needs some help. It really does. Luckily, did not do that in the webinar yesterday. Thank
Good.
goodness.
It needs
Technology, right?
caffeine too, Ken. It needs caffeine. It's
Maybe that's it.
perfect.
But I mean, so you and I, our audience is so large. I mean, Zan joins us often the times here. She's in Spain.
Yeah.
And so we have such a global audience that this is the technology that works for us. So you do a lot of in-person events too.
Yeah.
And so the same thing can apply when you're doing online versus in-person. I was in the middle of the night. I'm speaking at a writers conference this weekend in Phoenix. And I was up in the middle of the night thinking about handouts and how to do them. I think I'm going to use QR codes on
Mhm.
the first
That's
screen.
how I do it. That's how
Yeah,
I do it now.
I think it's a great way. The the thing I'm thinking about is the technology. And as we're talking about logistics today, this is something, you kind of think through, okay, how does
Absolutely.
somebody go through the steps of your process?
Absolutely.
So I'm thinking, okay, well, you do the QR code with your phone, and then it'll be a PDF. It'll takes you to a website
Yep.
so it'll be a private link on my website,
Yep.
private page, and then they'll get the PDF that they can download. And then, unfortunately, they can read it on their phone. If they know how to send it to their computer, they
Mhm.
could do that.
Yep.
So, anyways, it's a little there's a little bit of technology, right, involved in that.
Mhm.
Now, in person, I mean, I'm speaking in person, I don't know how many people will be there, and I don't want to take 60 copies of 3-page handouts,
Right.
from Staples or FedEx or wherever
Right.
you make your copies, which I have done in the past. But one, it's expensive. Two, what do people do with that afterwards?
Right.
Um, a PDF is much more likely to be searchable on their computer, and they can
Yep.
return to it later as
Yep.
a handout. So as you start thinking through the logistics of
Mhm.
how is someone going to interact with your material, same thing. Now we don't have a book table where I'm going to be, but I will be taking copies of Eat the Elephant to sell to people who want to sell them, or frankly, if they're the bootleg copies, I might just give them away,
Hey, for people who are coming.
which
Well,
I did last time.
you bring up a couple of things that I think really are beautifully aligned with our topic today on the business of the speaking business.
Mhm.
So, when you find yourself out there speaking, and hopefully the last several weeks, what we've done is like lay the foundation and framework for y'all that should be something as an author that, you should be considering that it should be a part of your kind of your potential outreach and reach. But I want you to also be thinking about like the specific business behind it. So financially, Jen, you said it could be costly and nobody, uses the pages. They can. And I'm sorry, the older I get, the more of a tree hugger I am. And the more sad I get when we print things, we don't really need them or we don't use them. So I am finding in my own speaking business, people are on their phones, man. Put a QR code as a part of your presentation.
Yep.
And what I usually do is if it's a virtual presentation, I might have the QR code go to a place where they can take notes, like something they can download more easily. If it's
Mhm.
in person, um, I mean, they're less likely to download or to have a tool to take notes in it, right? So
Mhm.
sometimes it
Right.
might be your top 3 takeaways in each section or something that kind of allows them. In that process, though, I like that better than just giving handouts because now what you're doing is you're thinking about the business behind it. You're not on
Mhm.
stage just to spread a message. I mean, yes, you are, but you need to have a reason or you're going to get tired and not keep showing up. So you want to get these people, these attendees. What if they love you and want to know more about you? You want to get them in your circle. And so a QR code to a downloadable could get them into your email list and allow you to nurture that in the long run. So not just like the business of building your business, but the business financially of what should you be investing your time and energy in. And I think it's in making sure you have a message that is memorable, that people are interested in, and they have a way to get into your circle. And you are selling books in the journey, right? And so a
Right.
couple of ways to do that is read from the stage. I
Mhm.
remember when someone told me this. I'm like, this is so
Mhm.
poof, duh.
Right.
But we all forget, and sometimes it's embarrassing. But I usually have like a couple of things earmarked in my book, and I will just open it up. And at a certain point, I will read a phrase from it. And that way I don't ever have to even say, I'm the author of da, 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 da,
Right.
da. Instead, I acknowledge it, they can see it, and I then put it down. That is a very visible way on stage to ensure that people go, "Oh, wait, Stephanie's selling a book on stage."
Yeah.
Or your business on stage, right? Like on stage, you could talk about anytime you use examples when you're on stage, I want you to be using examples either from your book, from the research in your book, or from the people that you help in your
Yes.
day-to-day business, right? And
Very
so,
true.
yeah, like it's, oh, well, that's a great question. When I worked with one of my clients, we did da 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 da. Now
Hmm.
they know you help clients, like they can hire you. Like these are small
Right.
nuanced things on stage that I think can really help kind of optimize that. Jen, what other ideas come to mind, or when you're doing your planning yours coming up, what are you planning on doing
Mhm.
today? What
Yeah.
makes
So, and what's interesting, because I'm teaching about editing, which I don't have a book on. My book is on writing a novel.
yeah.
And these, I was at the conference last year, so I know my audience pretty well. A number of them are well established, multi published authors, but there are some newer authors there.
Mhm.
So I want to make sure that I'm hitting things that are going to apply to both of them. Editing,
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
needs it, always happen. No matter how good you get, you
Mhm.
still need editing. And so, in my particular handout, we'll have like a checklist for
Mhm.
them. So they do need to, they will refer to it, which I think is going to be fantastic because then I'll have my website link. I will have my click here, or go to this link to get your freebie. So that they'll be on my newsletter list, that
Mhm.
kind of thing. Um, but as I'm thinking through what they want and what they need, I'm also doing a session on indie publishing. So
Nice.
that will be, um, there's a number. This is actually, I would say, based on last year's numbers, about half of these authors are traditionally published, but a
Mhm.
number of them have been doing it long enough where they're getting their rights back and they want to
Mhm.
go into indie publishing. They don't know anything about it because they've only been in the traditional world.
Yeah.
And so there'll be a lot of educating on that. And so thinking through their journey, what can I give them that they can take away that's going to be most helpful? So they're going to want to come back to me when they have questions. And so
Mhm.
thinking through that journey. Now,
Yeah.
I actually have one. I don't even have any taken out of it, but I do have these one of these card readers, tap and
Yes,
chip
you need a chip. You need
from
to be able to
yep,
process.
from Stripe. You and I don't know if you
I
I
use
can't remember.
Square.
Yeah, okay. So I used to use Square, but now all my payment processing, almost all of it goes through Stripe.
I like Stripe. I like Stripe a lot.
Yeah, so this is like 45 bucks. You buy it from them. Square will give you one for free. I had one for a while.
Mhm.
And so, but the it used to plug into your phone, well, now the phone format has changed and it didn't work anymore. So anyways,
Yeah.
whatever. Get whatever. Like I said, they're like 45 bucks. Sometimes Square will send it to you for free if you open an account. But being able to take credit cards these days is just huge.
It's
People
really the only, I mean, if
Most
people I
people
would
don't carry cash, and you
they
don't
don't.
want to give them a reason to say no. So I would say this is particularly if you're selling books in the back of the room,
Yeah.
as part of or you're at a festival or a fair or something like that, where you are selling books physically in person. Make sure you have a way. I think PayPal even has like a QR code on your phone where someone can
They
just
do, and
click
Venmo
it.
does as well. So,
Yeah,
definitely consider, how you want to process payments. I would say I have found over time, the larger you get, the more that you do, the more processors you have, the more complicated it is.
it does. It gets
So,
complicated.
yeah, so, like, I find one that works
Yeah.
and keep to it. And so for me, Square is what my business runs through. I
Yeah.
go through Square. I have the little Square thing. I used to have Venmo. I got rid of that. I'm like, I don't want to have to try to, reconcile
No.
all this. Like, just make it easy on yourself and on
Right.
them. If people want to give me cash, fantastic. Y'all, I don't want to carry around change. So I
Right.
tell people like my books are 15 bucks, but and I don't make change. So if you want to give me a $5 tip because you have a 20, like, thank you. That's so
Mhm.
kind. And
Right.
people do that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it just is if they want to give cash. I mean, and usually when I'm thinking about back of the room sales, I usually try to give a little bit of a discount anyway. So, like, I try to either round it to the nearest $5, and then I just lump my, taxes into that and pay them separately later. But
Exactly.
definitely make sure logistically you can handle that. In the beginning, I would carry around change, and that just became cumbersome. And so I
Well,
just
and I'm flying in there, so I don't wanna carry all this. I have done that too when I was doing local events, went to the bank, have the bank bag with the little change and everything in it.
yeah.
But, over time, especially with flying and everything like that, and really, I mean, I had a kid come to the door, a couple weeks ago selling, they do the school fundraiser and they sell wrapping paper and all that stuff, right? And I had a discussion with him because it was like, I was like, great, I'll buy some wrapping paper from you. It was like $13. I'm like, I don't have $13 in cash.
He needed
And yeah, he needed cash.
no, I don't
And
have
I
that.
said, I'm really surprised they don't have this set up for people to pay online.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I think they do, but ours isn't set up or whatever. I mean, whoever the adult behind this had not thought through the process. And so I said, well, you have to come back tomorrow to get your money. So I had to go to the bank. Well, I went to the grocery store anyways, got extra cash from the grocery store, which of course they give you like a 20. And then I went to the Starbucks in this grocery store and paid with cash, which I never do. In fact, it was so weird. The barista looked at me and I'm holding my money out and she's playing around with stuff. I'm like, she's waiting for me to use my card
Oh
and
my
I'm
word.
holding cash out. And she's like, oh, and I had to say to her, I said, I'm paying with cash.
Paying
And
this way.
yeah. And she's like, oh, oh. So
Oh my gosh.
I
Yes,
do get
don't make it
$13.
hard. Don't make
So,
it hard.
right? It was hard. I mean,
Don't
I
make
would
it hard.
never have gone through that if I was just buying. Obviously, I want to help a little kid in his school adventures, but
Yeah.
I would never have done that if I was just like having to buy, purchase something. That's just too much effort, right? Nobody's going to do that. So,
No.
whatever you can do to reduce that friction to make it easy for people. And like I said, people will, even if they're carrying cash, I mean, psychologically, they spend more money
Yep.
when they have cards. And so, if you can bundle something, if you have
Yes.
something that can be a gift,
Mhm.
and you can tie it to a holiday, people love being able to just do a ready-made gift, especially if you're talking to men who are looking for things for their wives. It's so easy just to bundle something. I know, Stephanie, you're really good at this. You've got a lot of really cool bundles that you do.
Well, thank you. We just did a women's retreat this past weekend, and everybody got a copy of one of my books because it was relevant. But my partner in crime said, let's do a product table. Proceeds will go back to our women's retreat work. I said, okay, cool. So we brought all of our goodies and a couple of things. And this is like back of the room sales, same thing. So some things that I noted were make sure you have a book stand. If you don't have a book stand, go buy a book stand, and a pen that matches in the color so that you can sign.
Yeah.
That's another non-negotiable. But what I also brought were little tchotchke things, and this is insane. I have a book that came out in 2018 and a workbook that came out in 2020 that go together, and then in between, I had a little journal made. Now, individually, I would take those to conferences, and I mean, they would sell fine, no big deal. But like, I don't know, not like they're selling once I put a bundle together, Jen,
Yeah.
and you get a workbook, book, a journal, and then I have these little bath salts to go with it, and they're all tied with a little bow, and life looks all pretty. And I just giggle inside every time I see them. Like, go, I'm almost out of bundles. This is insane.
Yeah.
So finding a way to put something together or make it meaningful, like the reason that those are bath salts is it aligns with the story. Or with my book Emergence, I have a candle that has the paper of it. When you plant it, actually it becomes seeds and growth and plants and all this stuff because it aligns with the message.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of people go, "Oh my gosh, my sister is a plant lady," and da 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 da. So now they're getting the book and all the tchotchkes
Mhm.
that go along with it that kind of reinforce it. I also do not every. I don't think everybody has to do it, but I have found if you want people to buy multiple things, have a way for them to carry those multiple things. So I
Right.
went and bought like a bulk of these really simple white bags, and I have white tissue so I can make a little bag, a little like present. Don't
Mhm.
overthink it, but just think about the journey if you want someone to buy multiple copies of your books. And also, like, if they, let's say you don't have any tchotchkes to go with it, but you have two different books or one book or whatever, are you going to give them a cut if they buy more? So like if
Right.
they have like 4 people in their life, like would you give a discount? Like, one for 15 but two for 25, or what is that?
Mhm.
Would you do that? Think about that before you get to your speaking engagement and then people ask. Because there's nothing worse when you're like, "Oh, good question. Sure." Like, or I
Right.
didn't think about that or whatever. But people like to get a deal. So
Yes.
and in the beginning of my entrepreneur world, this irritated me, Jen, because I thought, you're already getting a deal. You're meeting the author, I'm signing it. Why should I give you a deal? And then
Yeah.
I thought, and this has become a motto of my life, dusty books make my heart hurt. So if
Mhm.
I have copies of my books in my home and they're not being read, but I just get to look at them, that does nothing. Like, that
Mhm.
does not move the marble of why we wrote books. So what that marble moving is to ensure that you don't have to carry those books home from your speaking engagement, right? Like,
Right?
you don't want to, that's like, you don't want to do that. You want to like
Yeah.
be done and go buy more. And so
Right.
what does that look like? And how do you make it easy for people? There was something you said earlier I wanted to reinforce when you were like planning your presentation. Another way that you can sell on stage without like coming straight out and go, "Hi, my name is Stephanie and I have a book. You should go buy it." Da, 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 would be for you to ensure that maybe if you're talking about one little piece of your journey and there's so much more, put on a slide a visual of something that acknowledges how this is one piece of a much larger process or a much larger thought process.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so they can see, oh, we're going deep in this one, but I need to buy the book or I need to come to
Yeah.
another thing of Jen's or what have you. And they can see that there's more that you bring to the table in this one topic. Um,
Absolutely. It's a great way to look at it. I know when I'm talking about editing, I'm specifically talking about um, a few moments. I do talk about the macro and the micro, right? Which would be a macro would be a developmental edit, a micro would be more of a copy edit.
yeah,
And one of the things I tell them is this is to help you get your manuscript in a good enough shape so it can go to an editor.
absolutely.
Because I spend a lot of time talking about the brain science of why you cannot edit your own stuff sufficiently. You can get the
Mhm.
easy stuff out of the way. But
Yep.
it really, as they're going through and seeing how challenging this is, they will see that, gosh, this is going to take me a lot of time just to get it ready for an editor. And I'm
Exactly.
going to need an editor to make sure this is as good as it can be, because we talk about why your brain will skip over things, why you can't have the perspective, all those kinds of things. And so when they come out of your talk, they should feel like they got some value, but they should also feel like, boy, if I want to take this to the next level, I need that book, that product, that whatever. And it doesn't have to feel like selling at all. In fact, it
Mhm.
probably won't. It'll probably feel very natural. And
Yeah.
if you have like a process, and like you said, a slide that says, here's all the steps of the process. Today, we're going to just focus here.
Yeah.
Or even, I got this idea from Amy Porterfield. One of the things when talks about selling her courses, she says, think about what your ideal audience needs to do before they
Mhm.
buy your course. And you might talk about like the prep part
Yes.
before you even get into the whole thing. In her
Yes.
case, she does like a post-it note course idea
Mhm.
thing before you even get into it. And so those are some ways that naturally
Mhm.
feel like, I mean, you're driving value naturally without being like, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book.
Yeah, go buy my book, invest in me, 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 me. When you pivot and you realize it's not about you and you give to the people in attendance,
Mhm.
then they start deciding on how, because they're the ones that are making the decisions on how they're spending from their wallets and their, investment in their resources. You're allowing them to see that you can be a solution for them, and that is a win.
Yes.
That is a win. Yeah, I love those ideas, Jen, and I think you're right. So what I find a lot of authors doing when they come up with a speaking opportunity on stage, sometimes they talk about things that they just want to talk about and not things that they need, or that's a pivot or a funnel into something larger. And I do think we should be thinking about how can how can we do that? One of my first speaking coaches, I'll never forget. I mean, I was young and green and learning, and we all have to learn. I went to her house and she had tasked me with identifying like a couple of speaking engagement topics. And I show up with like, 15 because I'm an overachiever and I thought she'd be proud, right? And she looked at me and she's like, whoa, why are none of these your book title? And I'm like,
Mm,
oh, I don't know. And she's like, you really just need one. It should be your book title. And then you pull from it. And I was like, oh, okay. Duh, right? And so, like, don't overthink, and also don't think you have to have 1,000 topic ideas.
right.
A couple really good ones that could be
Yeah.
tailored makes it easier for you to sell to
Yeah.
people who are looking to hire you to come and speak. So just this
Okay.
like, last couple of weeks have been good and helpful and insightful.
Right. And I think that when you are talking topics from your book, you know the material so well.
Yeah.
It feels natural. You're not having to reinvent the wheel. And the thing I find I struggle with the most is getting it cut down enough to
Yeah.
talk about within the time constraints. And that was yesterday's issue, was that I was like, how do I make this?
Yeah.
You got 6 minutes left for questions at the end.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know, I know. I tend to be I this tends to be a chronic problem of mine too. I have a lot that I wanna share,
Mhm.
and, either people sometimes might go, "Well, I'm drinking from a fire hose." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Ah,"
I
because you
know.
don't always know, like, the skill set level or knowledge
Right.
level when you go in, or I, find myself at the end running faster, and so definitely air for less. I mean, that is
Right.
tried and true between you and I, like, less is more, even though
Mhm.
it feels like more is more.
Well, and I tend to always ad lib, and start going off script.
Yeah,
So,
me too.
and that's fine, but I know that that will add time. So when I practice, I like to give myself a
Mhm.
buffer. I must have done pretty good because my practice had 10 minutes left for questions. So I must have only
Oh,
like
good.
ad libbed for about 4 minutes. So, but I did feel like I was going faster than I would normally like. I would have liked to have gotten, and there was just a lot of material to cover.
Yeah,
And so I think no practice for sure. Practice
yeah.
practice on a Zoom camera or something where you can watch yourself,
Mhm.
instead of, I mean, you could practice in the mirror, that's fine, but sometimes that feels awkward a little bit. Whereas if you put it on Zoom and you feel like you can
Mhm.
practice, if you have slides, going through slides, things like that, then you can watch it. And I know it's uncomfortable, but to be honest, there's no way to get better other than just to do it over and over again and practice
Yeah,
and try. You'll have little ticks or things that you do, crutch words that
yes.
you lean on, and you don't even know you're doing it till you listen to yourself do it. And then you become self-conscious of it and try not to do it. And then you do something else instead. And so
Right.
you have to work through all of that.
Yeah, it's
before
not
you're
for the
good,
weak-hearted, man,
right?
or the faint-hearted. It is, but we know it works, and
Yeah,
the more you practice and the more you do it, the better
yeah,
you will get at it. The
it's
more
very true.
confident and comfortable you will get on stage. I mean, I remember the first time I got in front of 300 women, and I had, a few note cards. I didn't need them, but it was like a crutch.
Mhm.
I felt like I needed, and I had someone in the stage or in the audience who was like, "You need to get rid of their note cards." I'm like, "Give me a break." I'm just lucky I didn't have a panic attack on the stage.
Right.
Like, it's all good. But now I don't need those, right? Like, now there's other strategies and I'm more comfortable with my content. So you will get better. And just know we all have to start somewhere. And it is a beautiful, speaking is a beautiful tool to help sell books. Um,
Absolutely.
Jen, what's a last minute piece of advice that you might have for individuals who might be wanting to embrace the speaking stage circuit?
Well, before I do that, just want to wave at Zan and Mary Ellen who
Oh,
popped in. Yes.
yes, 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 yes. Hey, we've been over here chit-chatting.
Yeah.
Um, didn't even look over at our comments, Mary Ellen.
Right.
Congrats on your birthday book party launch. Anne and Zan, we love
Yeah.
seeing you from Spain. It's awesome.
And I would say, please try to have fun. You should enjoy yourself. I know it can be nerve-wracking. Try to enjoy it. Realize people really do want to hear what you have to say. They're eager for that. And if you can kind of, make that connection with the audience and kind of feel like you're just having coffee with a friend and sharing what's on your heart, what you're excited about, and try to just enjoy the process, you will come off more relaxed. Don't worry about mistakes. Just move on. People,
We
it's
all have.
normal. Yeah, exactly. People get it. It's not a problem. Just move on and don't worry about it. And certainly don't focus on your mistakes and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. I'm gonna blah blah blah. I've totally lost my place now. Like just move on, take a moment, and just get back to where you were. It's no big deal.
Mine would be do the hard things. And that's been a motto of mine this year is just do hard things and just try them. You might find that speaking is something you despise and don't ever want to do, and that's okay. And you might find that you absolutely love it, but you won't know until you get out there and try and do something
Right.
that's a little hard. Don't, like you had, just to reiterate what you said, don't get hung up on the flaws or the imperfections. I don't think there's been a single speaking engagement I've done that I have felt like it is perfect. And that's okay. That doesn't mean I don't get them. It doesn't mean that I'm not selling books from them. In fact, I think attendees who are listening in whatever form or fashion want to know that you're a real human and not this robotic human. So it is okay. Laugh from them and with them and alongside. But I love yours. Have fun. People feel that energy. And really, that's what people will remember. They will remember how you made them feel and how they left. So at the end of the day, if you want to sell books, leave them feeling inspired, motivated, and that they can do something by taking action.
I love it.
I know. So Jen, I'm looking at our notes. We're pivoting next. Can you believe it's October next week? I'm sorry.
I know. I'm always shocked.
How in the world is it October next week? In the lens of Halloween and masks and costumes. This is a theme that I get asked about frequently, and I'm kind of excited for us to explore it. I have a lot of mixed feelings with when it comes to marketing a book. I'm curious your thoughts on the writing part, on pseudonyms, pen names, everything in between.
Good.
So what do we do when we can't put our name or face on it for different reasons? So we'll do a couple of weeks in October all on the masks.
I love it. I get those questions a lot, and there are some really good reasons to have a pen name and some things you need to think about. And I will tell you my journey for my 3 pen names. Yeah, don't do 3. Well, you might.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, y'all, for participating in this season. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we hope to see you next week. Jen, send us off to outer space.
Authors, you have power, your words have power, and your message has power. So we invite you each week to join us as we come to the page and beyond and discuss all things book marketing and writing related. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.